My name's Chris Billett.
My name is Paul Anderson.
My name is Mark Boyd, and you listen to the Blue Army podcast.
Hello, my name is Derek Combs, and I listen to the Blue Army podcast.
Wow.
I know, man. Number 60. Here we go. Oof, bloody hell. I don't think I've done. That's a lie. Actually, I've definitely done a few things at least 60 times.
We're about to say I don't think I've done anything in my life 60 times.
I mean, you know, and then I was like, well, 60 feels like a lot because it's, you know, when you're doing it week one a week anyway, you grind it out over a long period of time, then it feels like a long period of time, I suppose. But 60 is a number. No, it's not that big, really, is it? Really?
60 seconds in a minute, and they go by pretty fast.
Yeah, true, very true. That's about as long as we normally spend on these pre-rambles, mate. I'll kick things off.
Nice segue.
We're getting better at these. We're nailing these. We're getting these. Oh, Reeds Maras, how's it going? Welcome back to the Blue Army podcast. This is, as you've probably already heard, episode 60, and I am joined by, as you've already probably heard, everybody's favourite co-host. I'm talking about Wills. Say hello, Wills.
Reeds Maras.
How's it going?
Not bad.
Ah, good, man. Yeah, good. The good form continues under Paul Simpson, mate. I mean, positive vibes continue for us. How are you feeling this week, just in regards to Carlisle United? Just steering away from that relegation zone that little bit more.
I mean, I think you can call us safe now, can't you? It's not just the 12-point cushion. Yeah, it's not just the 12-point cushion we've got. It's also the sort of like 6 teams beneath us who are all in the scrap to stay up, and none of them are on form even close to the form that we're on. So, you know, you can't see Oldham, Stevenage, Barrow, Colchester, Rochdale and Leyton Orient all overhauling us. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think we're safe.
Yeah. And obviously we'll move on to talking about the league table and stuff like that a little bit later on. But first, Wills, before we dive ahead and really get our grips on episode 60 of the Blue Army podcast, we've got a bit of tradition around here, and we always like to kick things off with the Blue Army podcast Joke of the Week. Are you having a laugh? I think he's trying to. It's the Blue Army podcast Joke. There we go. Loving it. Right, mates. I think this is a really old school joke. You might know the punchline here, so it might be up to you whether or not you want to smash it or not. We'll see. Why is Peter Pan always flying?
Oh, no, not heard this. Why is Peter Pan always flying?
Because he never lands!
Oh, God. I've not heard that joke before.
He never lands. I was happy when I found that one, mate. I don't know why. That's been hidden for so long, but I thought that was a goodie.
Because he does fly.
Right. I mean, it's a brilliant joke, mate. Brilliant joke. Episode 60 deserved a good joke of the week, and it's got a good joke of the week, and we'll keep the good times rolling, mate. Take a little stroll down Nostalgia Avenue as we go through the birthdays. There's not too many birthdays this week, so we'll kick things off with the man himself in the midfield maestro position. Mark Bridge Wilkinson is 43 this week. Mark Bridge Wilkinson was a bit of a legend in the, after the back-to-back promotion seasons. Was a bit of a long stay with Carlisle United. I mean, mate, you must have a fond memory of a goal or two Mark Bridge Wilkinson scored at Brunton Park.
Yeah, mainly remembered for his cultured left foot. Is that
It was almost as cultured as always, Ian Hart's left foot.
Always described as cultured. Always remember getting described as cultured. Yeah, NBW, and he was a key player at a good time for us. So good memories of him.
Yeah, he was a good player. A player that I don't really, unfortunately, have that many memories of, but I've seen some very nice comments in the comment section. Joe Joyce turned 61 this week, and a player that I do have a lot of memories of. Unfortunately, a bit of a bad memory for him and for me. I'm talking about Rory Loy. He turned 34 this week. I was there at the game at Preston where, unfortunately, he broke his leg, and that kind of stopped a bit of momentum for him at Carlisle United. He was looking really promising for us. Did go on to have quite a good career after Carlisle United. He played for Falkirk and made 60 appearances, scoring 29 times after being released by the Cumbrians. So, went on to have a very good career in Scotland after leaving Carlisle United. Mate, Rory Loy, for you, he was tall, kind of in the shadow of that Gary Medine kind of shape at the time. The manager was maybe trying to replace or sort of like, that's where Gary, you know what I mean? That's where the system was kind of heading at that time for Carlisle United. There was a big man up front kind of mentality, wasn't there?
Yeah, I mean, he didn't start off his career with Carlisle in the first team, but he was just starting to kind of like show flashes of being a first team player when unfortunately he got injured.
Yeah, he's one of those players where he was alongside Paddy Madden, wasn't he? And they both got released around the same time. Both players went on to have a really good season the year afterwards. And I think we got off to quite a bad start and finished maybe around like 12th or something in League One the season that those guys were kind of released. And that kind of started us on a bit of a backslide in momentum that eventually led to the relegation. And now obviously you find us in League Two a couple of years later, but it was one of those things that kind of really rubbed it in our faces, didn't it? We had the Glenn Murray release, we had the Rory Loy release, we had the Paddy Madden release, these young talents that weren't necessarily kicking on and getting things going for them at Carlisle United, but going on to have really good careers and leaving us as fans sort of like wondering like, what the hell's going on? Why aren't these lads, maybe getting this kind of form while they're with us? Mate, that is the end of the birthdays, unfortunately. A very short one this week, but a lot of fun. We've started a bit of a new tradition when we kick off the news, mate. I'll give you the option to choose between loan news and injury news. Go ahead, man. Knock yourself out. Which one do you want to go for?
What were the options again? Sorry.
Loan news or injury news? We've got a bit of wider news to cover later on, but we'll
go keep loan the tradition. News. I think we got injury news last time, so we'll go loan news.
Yeah, you're quite right. We did go injury news last time. So loan news, mate, starts off with the fact that Taylor Charters is having an exceptional time at Gateshead. I'm not talking necessarily in terms of scoring goals, but playing 90 minutes, getting that vital experience under his belt. Very important for him at the moment, being a youngster, ticking in those minutes in a man's game. And Gateshead are winning week in, week out, and he's a part of that starting 11 week in, week out. So that's very impressive in terms of him, things for him. In other loan news, we've got Mampala didn't play for Weymouth this week, but don't worry, guys, Weymouth didn't play this week, so it's not a big deal. And also, unfortunately, a little bit of bad news is the fact that Tristan Abrahams was an unused substitute in Grimsby's 0-0 draw against Boreham Wood. So compared to last week, only coming off the bench for the last sort of 5 minutes, this week not getting any minutes at all. Tristan Abrahams, you're looking at him being one of those players where we've kind of getting off the wage at the moment and being able to sort of bring the players in that we needed in January. Obviously, a lot of those signings haven't worked out, and Simpson's continued with a lot of the players we started the season with, bar the striking pair. But mate, in terms of just like Taylor Charters, And I'll come back to him right at the end of the podcast for Skelly's shit stirrer. But in terms of Taylor Charters getting these 90 minutes at Gateshead, it is really important that he's doing this. And I don't think we can really do that much justice to his performances, because we can't cover these games at all. But we can make these blanket statements, and we can say that the level that he's playing at, and the fact that he's playing week in, week out, and he's getting 90 minutes and playing the full 90 minutes, it's going to be great for his development, isn't it? It's going to be the best thing for his development for us as in terms of his parent club, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like you say, we can't really comment on his performances, but we know the team are doing good. And, I feel like that's definitely going to be better for him than, getting off the bench with us, or, even if he came back to us and he only got like a couple 90-minute runouts or something, like even then you kind of think where he is at the moment is kind of like contributing in a real way to how that team are doing. So, he must be coming back to us a better player, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Yeah, when you're ticking up these minutes in the man's game, when you weren't doing it at all for the last 2 years, just coming off the bench, it's not enough. So I feel like this is going to be a great chance for him to push on in terms of his football and development, and hopefully we'll see more from him at some stage. That's the loan news. We'll move on to the injury news. Callum Guy left Barrow on crutches, unfortunately. He was substituted off in the 19th minute against Barrow in the Cumbrian Derby. Obviously, we'll cover more of this kind of thing in the match crack, but that's the big injury news this week, is the fact that Callum Guy went down. Unfortunately, there hasn't been that much in terms of an update, apart from Simo kind of saying that it looks bad and he jarred his knee. The crutches may have just been a bit of an over precaution, but it's rather to be safe on these kind of things. But unfortunately, at the time that we're recording, there hasn't been any update in terms of how long Callum Guy will be out of the starting lineup for. In terms of other injury news, mate, there's been a little bit of a drama going on at Brunton Park behind closed doors that Simo let loose. Apparently a bug went round at Brunton Park, certain players not being able to train because of picking up a bug. John Mellish, unfortunately, couldn't train on a certain night of the week because his missus went into some kind of, maybe labour. I'm not sure if there's been any kind of announcement on that either, but obviously there'll be a congratulations if I do hear anything about that or any kind of news about that. There's been a little bit of a bad knock. I mean, I say a little bit of a bad knock. Simo said a really nasty knock Corey Whelan took in training before the game. Also, Jack Armas wasn't feeling well before the game against Barrow. So both those two players were very uncertain before the game against Barrow. Obviously, all that's been and gone, and we'll be able to talk about their performances a bit more in the match crack. Obviously, in other injury news, there's Magnus Norman doesn't seem to be able to get in match contention, just to sit on the bench. And I don't know, mate. I really don't know if that's perhaps a lack of desire from a player that maybe feels a little bit downhearted after being number one so early on in the season. But obviously, we'll see how that pans out. I don't want to accuse him of anything in terms of his character right now. But it does seem to be struggling to get fit, and for a goalkeeper to sit on the bench, I don't want to be disrespectful again, but for a goalkeeper to sit on the bench, it's not that much to ask for you to travel to Barrow and sit on the bench. So, I mean, you're thinking something was definitely wrong for him to be out of that game. I don't think he's going to be playing in the Cumberland Cup either, in terms of getting some first team minutes. I think that'll be a Gabriel Breeze job, perhaps, or a Simmons job. But yeah, other injury news as well. I think there was one more. No, it's just the fact that Jamie Devitt's still going to be out until the end of the season. So obviously just reminding people that he's not in contention to start again. So obviously a lot of things going on behind closed doors, mate. Omari Patrick apparently also was struggling on Tuesday night, just to throw that into contention. Simo seems to be juggling a lot and coping really well, mate. And this has led to a lot of fans thinking that Paul Simpson should be gifted the freedom of the city of Carlisle. And that prompted me to do a little bit of research to see who currently holds the freedom of the city of Carlisle. And I couldn't find a single soul. So he might be the first. I don't want to say that, or at least the only living. Go on.
I remember once going to a thing in town and they were given the freedom of the city of Carlisle to RAF Spade Adam as a whole. So, like, not a person, but...
Right.
I mean, that's all I can say with that. I don't know any more than you on whether there's any people out there who have the freedom of the city.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's any other people, but, I mean... Yeah, go on. Right. Yeah, go on. Just give him it. Like, he's putting up with so much shit. And if he keeps this town up, you know, this football club is really good for this town, mate. It really is. The two go hand in hand. And when the football club is doing well, you can see the fact that the attendance just thrives and the atmosphere around the city is a lot better and the bars are alive and people are out and people are being more social, just as a result of the results at Brunton Park. In wider news, I mean, we've covered quite a lot there, but in wider news, in terms of our rivals, we'll treat this as a little bit of a warm-up, I suppose, before we cover the match crack, which was obviously the Cumbrian Derby. In terms of our rivals, I feel like it's always important to keep your, what's that saying, Wills? Your enemies, your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of that, mate, Barrow, we're going to do a bit of Barrow news, news on our rivals. Barrow have decided to sack their manager and very quickly hire a new manager and a new assistant manager who will be very familiar to a lot of Carlisle United supporters. And also, to be fair, a manager that'll be familiar to a lot of Carlisle United supporters just because of where he's been in his career. He's managed all over England, but he's been to the heights of the Premier League with the mighty Hull. I'm talking about Phil Brown has been appointed as manager of Barrow, and his assistant is old Neil McDonald. Old McDonald had a Carlisle, and bloody hell, how that went. What are we thinking of that, mate? Is that a good partnership? I've not been a fan of Phil Brown for a while. Opinion of Phil Brown has been very low of late from things that I've seen. Like I've seen Under the Cosh. I watched that religiously, listened to that religiously, sorry, and the opinions on there are very low of most of the players that I've worked with Phil Brown. They've all got something to say about Phil Brown. It feels like a squad hasn't bought into his philosophy for a very long time. And Neil McDonald seems like the kind of kook pot that might just sort of go along with the sort of kook pot that is Phil Brown. What does that say to you, mate? Barrow is hiring and firing and firing and hiring so quickly. Obviously, you need to make a change when you're so close to relegation, right?
Yeah, I mean, they've looked at teams around them, Carlisle included, in that, you know, most of the teams in there have changed manager at least once this season. A lot of them had positive, you know, like a new manager bounces. We've had a very good one. Remember when Sheridan first went into Oldham? They've slipped back down a bit now, but I mean, when Sheridan went to Oldham, you know, they were gone. And with him in charge, they're at least in it now. You look, I mean, Keith Hill, you know, even though Scunthorpe are pretty much gone, they did have a bit of an uptick of form when Keith Hill came in. We had a little bit when Keith Millen came in, you know, we did win 3 games in a row, although that was after about a month or two. So, yeah, and Barrow haven't changed their manager. He's actually been banned from the touchline for the last 8 games. It was an 8-game ban. I don't know how many into it. So they've been doing without him on the touchline, Mark Cooper. After comments. it's after comments he made to a female assistant referee while he was, I think it was while he was manager of Forest Green. So a bit of sympathy.
Should I say it? Should I say it? Yeah, that sounds very Barrow. Carry on.
So that sounds very Barrow to appoint someone with a touchline. But yeah, I mean, I think in fairness to Barrow, because I mean, he's been with Barrow all season, but the ban only came in sort of a couple of months ago. So, it's a very late, it's very late of them to apply the ban like almost a year after his left Forest Green behind, and then Barrow have had to deal with that ban. I've got some sympathy for them on that.
Is that what it was? All right, it was at Forest Green. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that the incident where he made the comment towards female assistant referee. I'm
gonna have to apologise to Barrow fans. the non that are listening.
I feel like I need to look it up now, but I feel like I think that was while he was at Forest Green, but things haven't been good for them under him. And I don't know if anyone heard his comments after the match. They were pretty dire sounding. If you're a Barrow fan, you hear your manager saying things like that he instructed his players to go out there and run around a bit, and they hadn't followed his instructions. There's also you like that? Literally what he said.
It's just give up, buddy. It's just give up.
It was.
It's just give up.
Sort of blaming his team for not running around a bit like he told them to, and also the fact that apparently he gave them the week off, so they didn't train between Tuesday night when they had a game and Saturday morning before the Cumbrian Derby. So Wednesday to Friday, no training, which that's not good preparation. Why would the manager do that? Is he trying to get relegated? Phil Brown, not sure if he's a good appointment, but they aren't in desperate trouble, Barrow. They're up above the relegation zone. There's the teams in it and doing well, so it's not like a desperate situation for them. They just have to stop losing games and not lose too many games, and you think they should be fine. Is there any danger that Phil Brown and things actually go even worse and then they go on a losing run? I don't know. It's good news for the tanning salons of Barrow because they've got a
Yes, indeed. It is. I mean, Phil Brown, he's legendary for that whole extra time team talk that he did on the pitch with Hull. Just a bit of a weird character, right? Just sort of like a bit of a eccentric sort of type. I don't know, man. I don't know. Halftime team talk, wasn't it? It was halftime. That's why it was so weird. Yeah. But
I can confirm, by the way, that Mark Cooper's 8-game touchline ban was comments he made while he was Barrow manager. It was a while ago because it always takes ages for these things to come through, but it was in his tenure as Barrow manager. So there we go. You can put your comment back out there now.
If this experience has taught me anything, I'm better off just keeping my mouth shut, mate. Yeah, I'm just going to leave it there.
No, you retracted your decision because I thought that it was while he was at Forest Green, so you can unretract it now.
Well, I could. But we'll move on to the match, crack. Obviously, the result of the match, crack, will be in the fact that Barrow went on to sack their manager. Blah blah blah. The starting lineup for Carlisle United's game against Barrow in the Cumbrian Cup is as follows. Mark Howard was in goal, Riley, Simiu, Feeney, Mellish and Armour in the back line, with Gibson, Guy and Dickinson in the midfield, and Patrick and Dennis playing up front. The sort of starting lineup you probably could have predicted with the injury to Jamie Devitt. Again, a bit of a rinse and repeat syndrome for you will assume to be Paul Simpson's new favoured starting 11. Do you think he's going to stick with Dickinson there? I mean, now with the injury to Guy, obviously he's kind of going to be forced into sticking with Dickinson in that position. But I felt like Dickinson didn't play very well in this game, mate. I've watched the full 90 and I don't feel like he had a fantastic game. And that's the second game in a row. And he did have that assist a couple of weeks, like a week or two ago, but that felt a bit lucky as well. And I just think he's winding his time down here. I really do.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, like all the players that are in the squad now, apart from obviously the ones that are on loan, their mind has to be on staying with the club. I guess there's maybe a bit of uncertainty over who's going to make that decision, but they've still got to fight for their own contracts. I didn't watch the full 90, so I can't add anything on your comments about Dickinson. Is with David and Guy both out, assuming Guy's going to be out for at least one game, you'd think. There's options, and certainly Dickinson is one of those options. So he may get the chance to kind of like he may sort himself out and put in some good performances. But there's other players that are going to be looking to fill those roles. We've got Danny Devine there, and potentially also.
How do you feel about Danny Devine's kind of like impact when he comes off the bench? He's not an impact player, is he? He's more brought on to steady a game when we're already ahead, really.
He's a control player. He's a more defensively minded player. With Corey Whelan's going to be out as well, so so that's one possibility ruled out. So then you maybe kind of do look at someone like Josh Dixon. Is kind of like is this his moment? I wouldn't be bringing Taylor Charters back. We've discussed that, but there are kind of like young players who've come through our academy who play in a similar position in central midfield who might get an opportunity out of us having a couple of players out injured there. Well, 3 if you include Whelan as well.
Yeah. Whelan is a player for me that has impressed me this season, maybe because my expectations are quite low, but he has gone on to do really well. And when he's called upon, does seem to do quite a good job. Now he seems to be a bit of a bit part player, seems to sort of fill in where here and there where he needs to. But again, doing a really good job.
And that's it. When you're not in the team, then usually that results in you being prepared to come in and do a job wherever your manager's asking you to do a job. And, John Mellish has done that for almost his entire time at Carlisle and at times worked out well for him. It's not always what a player wants to do is to come in and fill in different positions. But, if you can do it, then you kind of find yourself a way back into the first team. That's the kind of motivation that you want players to have.
Yeah. I have to, The way things are looking at the moment, I would hope anyway. I put Josh Dixon in my Instagram sort of desired 11 in that midfield position for the game against Barrow, because I do feel like it's important to have them homegrown legs in these derbies, and it would have been the opportunity with Devitt gone to maybe replace him with a like for like almost, potentially.
We're a little bit safer now.
True, but just the sort of feistiness and the impact of somebody that really understands what the derby means to the fans. Move on to the highlights, mate. The Carlisle United's opening goal coming quite early on in the first half. I say that. Past the halfway point, it was 32 minutes in when Gibson, in a game that was looking really scrappy, won the ball in the midfield, played it into Patrick, who lost the ball to a defender, but that fell to Gibson, who smashed it across the keeper and across the box. It's a top quality finish. But it's one of those goals that at this point of the season, Gibson doesn't score shit goals, does he, mate? Gibson scores good goals. This is what he does. Like, he pulls these kind of goals out the locker. He's that kind of a player. He likes shooting from outside the box. And it is important, like we discussed in previous weeks, for us to be trying keepers from this position. And I mean, Christian Dennis is in the middle there. And, you know, you could argue that Gibson maybe should have crossed the ball into him, but he hasn't. He shot it. And one of the people that's more excited about the goal going in is Christian Dennis. You know?
Yeah.
It's a great sort of like club feeling, and it's really nice to see a goal like that scored. It just means a lot more when there's a goal of great quality scored. How, after seeing the results, after seeing the highlights, I mean, how do you describe that goal from Gibson, mate? Is it a quality League Two goal? Is it just a really good goal, or is it one of those magic moments?
I don't think there's necessarily such thing as good League Two goals and good goals. I think a good goal is a good goal anywhere. You know, the ball's the same size, the goal's the same size, so the job of getting the ball to the goal is pretty much the same.
What comes the pitch is the same quality?
Pitches, yeah. I mean, I think it was.
I'm just staring up because it does bounce. I'm just saying because it does bounce.
Yeah,
in front of the goalkeeper. So I'm just saying.
Yeah, it was. I mean, he spotted a chance, and he put the ball where he wanted to put it, and went in. It's good. It's also it's another kind of example we've seen where John Gibson will win the ball in midfield and go forward with it and catch the team on the break, kind of like orchestrates a counter attack himself.
Real driving force for us this season.
Yeah, he's got a very similar goal to that. And I forget who it was against, where he just wins the ball, comes forward, scores it.
Yeah. Now, Carlisle went 2-0 ahead in this game. There was a lot of minutes from goal to goal. The second goal coming around like the sort of 72nd minute, something like that. Simiu, I noticed against Newport on Tuesday night, and you get a good view from the Warwick of how Carlisle's backline operate. Simiu is being relied upon a lot more as a ball-playing sort of outlet. Yeah. And he's proven to be quality in the build-up to Carlisle United's second goal here. Shows really nice and early for Mark Howard, who rolls it straight into his feet. Just the one touch, and a great, I mean, what is that? Like a 45, 50-yard pass that goes really, it's one of those passes that you want to see from your fullbacks. It asks questions of the goalkeepers and the fullback and the centre-back. It involves all three, and it can really ask a lot of questions, and it can cause a mix-up. And when you've got a striker, and this is what Carlisle United fans have been screaming out for maybe the past 2 seasons, is a quality, experienced striker of around this age, of around the 30, of around the 31. And to go on a tangent here, mate, I don't think the board ever wanted to sign a striker of this age. They don't really want to sign because they want assets. They can't sell. If they sign a striker and spend $2,000 a week on a 31-year-old striker, they're not going to sell him. They're not going to be. That's why it doesn't happen that often for Carlisle United fans. It doesn't happen that often for Carlisle United fans. But we've been screaming out. I'll go back to my point. We've been screaming out for this kind of attacker because when he sees that ball going in, his tail's up, his eyes light up, and he's in there and he's zigzagging behind the defenders. He's asking more questions than the ball's asking that's coming in from deep. And it's beautiful. It's a really good goal, mate. It's a really good goal. He gets the right side of his defender. It's just enough pace to sort of cross that line, and it's just smart. It's just clever. It's just he knows where the keeper is. Yes, maybe Farman, and maybe people are going to think, oh, here he is talking about Farman again. Now he's got the opportunity. But yes, maybe Farman is at fault here. Should have sort of claimed the opportunity, claimed the moment, said, what orchestrated a bit more what was going on from that early stage when the ball comes into the box. If he's going for it or the defender's going for it, he's in no man's land basically when the shot's taken. But that's it. That's what we've been screaming out for feels like ages, mate. As an experienced striker who can just nip in, cause a bit of mayhem, and just finish. Just finish the ball nicely, just a nice finish, just a really nice finish there, mate.
Yeah. I mean, it's the sort of thing that experienced strikers do. It was opportunistic. And, we've seen players score goals like that.
That's the word.
Christian Dennis is someone who comes in with a reputation for being able to do that. So now we've seen him get off his mark. It'd be kind of lovely to just see him continue to do that and become a line leader for us.
Yeah. I mean, what's maybe more entertaining than watching the goal is when Christian Dennis runs off and supports it with the away fans. I do have to point out, if anyone, he does disappear, but I do have to point out, mate. If you're watching the highlights on YouTube, if you stop on minute sort of like 1:25. If you've been, obviously many of you have been to Brunton Park, the paddock, and the Warwick Road end where those barriers kind of are. There's a man, maybe in his late 20s, 30s, and he's standing on that. Like he's standing on that. Is his standing? I don't know how he got up there. I wouldn't know how I would get up there. But mate, it's obviously superhuman sort of feats when it means a lot to you when you're winning 2-0 in the Cumbrian Derby. It was just a short-lived 2-0 lead. Barrow did get a goal back. Again, I'm going to use that word that you just flexed, mate. Opportunistic, perhaps, from the Barrow midfielder. Poorly dealt with corner, and then the ball fell to the player Banks, who just hit it first time and hit it really well, and it bounced and ended up in the top corner. Can you really blame Carlisle's defence other than the fact that I mean, like, let's have a look at this. And who really? It's the keeper, isn't it? The keeper doesn't unfortunately claim it, and then it goes back out. So it might be Howard's fault that he maybe should have been stronger, because he maybe made the shout and told his defenders not to go for it, and then he hasn't came out to claim it. So maybe some of the blame has to be at his door, unfortunately. It might have been headed in front of him. Let's have a look again at the replay one more time. Yeah, there's a lot going on in front of him. The player comes off the front post. And Carlisle just made us suffer with a bit of mayhem there, a bit of miscommunication, perhaps. You're going to see those moments happen, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure looking at it if he kind of gets the kind of contact with it that he wants as well, Mark Howard. I was only listening on the radio. The commentators, it was Adam Johnson, the normal Barrow commentator.
No, I had the volume down when I was watching it.
I'm just there was the normal Barrow commentator and then Chris Lumsden, like Radio Cumbria, had combined their commentary teams for this one. They kind of like pinned that on Mark Howard. It was a set piece, and they do say that you're most vulnerable when you've just scored. You maybe take your eye off the ball a bit. I think there'll have been a lot of relief around the Carlisle camp because they've just kind of gone 2-0 up, and in a game where a win should pretty much see you safe. So potential big win coming up, and you've gone 2-0 up. Opposition get a corner, and I don't know, maybe those are the sort of things where if you're a professional player, you're just not quite paying as much attention to it as you are when when things are a bit tighter.
Yeah. Mate, at the end of the day, you're winning in the Cumbrian Derby, and You know, it's a big time just to go down to Barrow, go over to Barrow, and to come away with a victory for any team in this division. It's a difficult place to go. Obviously, perhaps for us with the shorter travel, not necessarily perhaps as daunting, but mate, it means a lot to get that victory. It really does, and I'm proud to be a Carlisle fan once again. After such a horrible time for us, the good times are just continuing and continuing. At this point of the match crack, we normally give our Foxes features man of the match. And I think in terms of last week, I went first. So, mate, you can go first this week.
Okay. So based on watching the highlights and listening to the commentary, I'm going to give the man of the match to Cumbrian Derby.
Oh, buddy, that's
his goal, and sounded like he was involved in a lot of stuff as well. It wasn't just the goal.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, mate. Me too, Cumbrian Derby. He lived up to his nickname, Dennis the Menace, today. I feel on that day. Sorry, I feel, and hats off to him. That's a double vote for Cumbrian Derby. I don't think he's in any danger of coming anywhere near the sort of top three that we have going on at the moment. It's a bit too late in the race for Cumbrian Derby, unfortunately. But by all means, it's a hats off to Cumbrian Derby. Now, I went back to Facebook for a change and asked some of our Blue Army podcast followers what they thought of the Barrow game this week. And Joe Wilkinson said some good parts and a few frustrating parts, but we got the win, and that's all that matters in a derby. Well done, the boys. Stuart McCall said, take any win, but 5 from 6, can't complain at these stats. And Mark Badger Middling said, we're safe. In brackets, more or less. So all positive vibes from the comment section, mate, you have to say there. And 5 wins from 6. It's just unbelievable from a team that is in our position. That is the sort of form you'd expect to be at this time in the season if you're in contention for promotion. Unfortunately, that's not where we are, but you've got to be in dreamland, mate. You've got to be feeling in dreamland right now with the way that the form is going and the way that Paul Simpson has got the team playing. Is this going to be the way that we play next year? Are we playing Paul Simpson football, or is Paul Simpson adapting to the best players in the positions and utilizing them in the positions and just dealing with the squad that he's got at the moment? Do you feel like we're going to see a change of formation next year if he stays on, or is this Paul Simpson football? What are we watching?
I have no idea. I think the biggest question will be whether he'll still be the manager next season, because he hasn't managed that much recently. So there's not like a lot that you can look back on from recent years and learn what his preferred style and formation is. I'd be quite happy for the style of play to continue on into next season. And certainly the fact that he's a manager who's come in and is just about playing players in their best positions maybe means that in terms of formation, his hands are more tied by the players that he's got than, say, a manager that will come in and say, I want to play my preferred formation, so I want the players to fit to that. I think Simo is probably more of a manager who, well, just based on the fact that he's made a thing about playing players in their best positions, makes you think that maybe his perfect formation isn't quite the one that he's playing now. So if he stays, I hope he stays, I would just put full faith in him to show us how he wants us to set up.
Yeah, hands down. Yeah,
That's a really
Simo,
awkward question there.
Yeah, sorry.
this thing that we've got no idea of. What are your thoughts on it?
Obviously, yeah, it's one of it is one of those. Yeah, it's one of those shit stare questions. I do apologize. It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one to deal with, but it's not a difficult one for me to.
You knew it when you asked us, though. Yeah, that's such a big grin on your face. You're like, yeah.
In terms of the league, how this affects the league table, and looking ahead to our next opponents and how they're getting on in the league, we are the two informed teams in the league right now. We are the two teams with the best form in the team in the league right now, but they're occupying a position where you would expect one of the best informed teams of the league to occupy, and we're in 17th. But, we've beaten teams arguably better than Bristol Rovers, and Bristol Rovers haven't exactly had the best time this season, and they have been at fault for having some poor results in the early stages. I'm looking at that game, mate, and obviously in Simo we trust, and as tradition goes, and given my prediction here on the Blue Army podcast, I'll never predict that Carlisle United are going to lose a game. So once again, I'm going to predict that Carlisle United are going to win, but the scoreline this time against Bristol Rovers at Brunton Park on the 26th of March is going to be 4-0 to Carlisle United.
There we go. That would prove me right from a few weeks ago.
That's it.
Yeah. I feel like we owe Joey Barton one as well. It really annoyed me when he made them stupid comments. They were like, oh, what an absolute idiot. And then he goes and beats us 3-0 and makes his own idiotic comments look like some words of wisdom, just because he had the good fortune to come up against one of the worst teams in the division at the time. So, yeah, I feel like we owe him one. Definitely owe him one.
I'm going to land in with that one. What have you got, man? What have you got?
I mean, I'm going to go 1-1. I'm not as optimistic as you are. When I say we owe him one, I'm not like super confident that we get one. But, we can beat anyone. Good win against Northampton Town, and they're above them in the league. Amazing to look at the league and see teams like Bristol Rovers and Mansfield up in the automatic promotion race. Mansfield have lost their last two, so they're slightly out of it, but they've got games in hand. Because when we played Bristol Rovers, we were about the same, and we both had terrible starts to the season. Mansfield were down there as well at the time. And at that time in the season, you'd have probably said Bristol Rovers, Mansfield, Carlisle, these are teams that are going to be in a relegation battle. And we have been. Those two have managed to get themselves into a promotion battle. So it's interesting how things can turn around. They've won 4 on the bounce. I don't know. I would be plenty happy with a draw.
Yeah. Fair enough, man. Fair enough. I mean, I can't fault you for that, but I've just got, we've got to thrash somebody at some point with Simo. We've got to do it, and why not?
We've still got Stevenage to play, haven't we?
Well, yeah, but why not Bristol fucking Rovers with Joey Barton? Why not? Just why not? Why not Brunton Park? Why not? We'll see. Dennis is on it. Dennis is on it now. Patrick is on fire. Let's just see how it goes. Let's just see how it goes, mate. Right. I really enjoy these podcasts, mate. And lasted until episode 60. Like I said, it does feel like we've been going for a long time now. And we've had our ups and downs, and at the moment we're going through a massive up. There's been a lot of new downloaders, a lot of new subscribers, a lot of new followers, all that kind of thing. There's more listeners, and it's all because of Paul Simpson, really, and it's all because of the way the Carlisle United squad are reacting to his presence, and how the city is reacting to the football club's reaction on the pitch, and reaction. It's time for Skelly Shitster.
Okay.
Here we go, mate. Skelly Shitster. Right. With Jamie Devitt and Callum Guy both out to potentially long-term injuries. Obviously, Jamie Devitt is, Callum Guy, no one's not sure on.
Yeah.
And Taylor Charters being on loan, having such a good time at Gateshead. Like I said, we're going to come back to this at the end. Is it time Taylor Charters came back and rightfully claimed his place in the Carlisle United midfield? Or is it more valuable for him to gain experience out on loan? Skelly Shitster.
Yeah, my thought. I think I would leave him out on loan. If he wasn't doing so well out on loan, I'd bring him back. Certainly, if he was in the squad, it would probably be my first choice to step in there. But there's not that long left of the season, and you just want him to be involved in a promotion campaign the Gateshead have got going on, and let him finish what he started there. We've also got, I didn't mention before, but I think if Kelvin Mellor's close to a return, then that kind of...
That's a big boost.
That would free up Joe Riley to play in midfield.
Yeah, Jimmy Tiore will return to Carlisle United duty apparently at the Cumbrian Cup, which by the time that this episode goes out, I feel like I'll probably release this episode early actually before I go to the match. Maybe give it a little bit of exposure, maybe encourage one or two extra people to pop along to the El Clasico. Carlisle United are playing Carlisle City at Guildford Park, and it's going to be a stormer in the Cumbrian Cup semi-final. Jimmy Tiore is apparently a sure thing to be playing for Carlisle United in that game. Paul Simpson has let out the bag that 4 to 5 Carlisle United first team contracted players might feature in the game against Carlisle City. There will be a few familiar faces to Carlisle United fans at Carlisle City as well. I think the goalkeeper Adam Bradbury still at Carlisle City. He sat on the bench a few times for Carlisle United, and there might be one or two other familiar faces. I've already said, get down there. It's going to be a great time.
Mark Boyd will be familiar with that neck of the woods.
That's it, mate. Yeah. Fair few people. I've enjoyed their time through the Celtic Nation down there. Me, myself, I have my experiences with Carlisle Spartans, a small town team that were playing down there. A bit of Sunday League football. But yeah, get down there, get to the El Clasico. Hope you enjoyed Skelly's Shitster this week as well. And Wills, mate, there's only one thing left to do at the end of episode 60, and that is to thank you and the listeners for joining me here on the Blue Army podcast, mate. Thank you very much for joining me, and
thanks for having me on.
Always a bloody pleasure. So there's only another thing we have to do, just to be polite, and that's to say bye. Bye for now.
Ta-ra.
Ta-ra. That was nice and Cumbrian. I like that one.